Welcome to the It's in Queens podcast. I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and this is the only podcast that focuses on Queens, the borough that has it all. This podcast is brought to you each week by the Queens Economic Development Corporation and the Queens Tourism Council. They work tirelessly to showcase our borough as a destination with great experiences, cultural gems, opportunities for everyone who lives here, visits, or works here. One of the great things about Queens is that talent does not have to be imported here. It's already here in our neighborhoods, our storefronts, our commercial kitchens, and in our markets. And of course, in the families who build something from the ground up because they see a need and decide to meet it. Queens has always had that kind of energy. Just walk along a shopping corridor in Jackson Heights or Astoria or Long Island City, and you see it everywhere. Small businesses testing ideas, immigrant entrepreneurs bringing global experience to local customers, second-generation business owners modernizing what their families first started. That's why commerce in Queens feels so vibrant. It's not just one industry or one neighborhood. It's food, technology, healthcare, construction, retail, professional services, and community-based ventures all moving at once. The borough's diversity is not just cultural, it's economic. And that brings us to the Queens Tech and Innovation Challenge, or QTIC. I like to spotlight the winners each year because the competition is one of the clearest examples of how Queens backs its own. Hosted by the Queens Economic Development Corporation, QTIC helps early-stage entrepreneurs get training, sharpen their business plans, receive mentorship, and compete for funding that can help them move from a promising idea to the next stage of growth. And this year's competition drew a record field of applicants, and 5 businesses were ultimately selected to receive grants of up to $20,000 each. But the real story is bigger than the awards. QTIC creates a pathway. It gives founders a chance to test their ideas, refine their pitches, connect with experts, and become part of a Queens-based network that can continue supporting them long after the final presentation is over. I want to thank Queens Borough President Donovan Richards for his continued support of the initiative. That support helps make possible to invest directly in Queens entrepreneurs and to keep the borough at the center of innovation, opportunity, and small business growth. One of this year's winners is Rathan Yogi, founder of Sivaro Snacks. Rathan won in the food category, and his business is a very Queens story, a family-owned snack company making small batch roasted nuts and dried fruit with products that are seed oil-free and made with a focus on quality, flavor, and real ingredients. So let's hear from Rathan Yogi about Sivaro Snacks and how the business started, what it means to build in Queens, and how the Queens Tech and Innovation Challenge is helping him take the next step. Rathan Yogi, welcome to the It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. Happy to be here.
So
Thanks for having me.
let's start off by talking about Sivaro Snacks. It was started because you wanted real food with real ingredients. So talk about what you saw as missing in the snack market that made you want to launch this business.
Yeah, Jeff. So, a little bit of my background. I used to be a personal trainer, right? So I watch basically everything that I eat, everything from nutritional labels, but also to the ingredients that's in them. And one thing I found, especially as I try to make my diets healthy for my clients and myself, is when we would go into the natural aisle, you think picking up some nuts or dried fruit, that's supposed to be a easy choice for a healthy snack. But honestly, if you flip those labels over and you read the ingredients, right, it's filled with a bunch of chemicals that's horrible for you. It's literally banned in Europe, but it's approved over here. You know, stuff like titanium dioxide, it messes up your DNA. Maltodextrin spikes your insulin and sugar. So it's stuff like that I found within the natural space that I was like, hey, this is kind of like you're hoodwinking the customer. So when I had to go on road trips, I would just make my own snacks with nuts. And that's, I use maple syrup. I avoided all seed oils, and that's how Sivaro was born.
And you emphasize clean label, seed oil-free snacking. Why was that important to you? And how do you explain that value to customers? Because I think that's one of the biggest selling points is building on what you just talked about, because most people might not look at the ingredients. They just see, oh, it's going to be healthy because it's got nuts.
Absolutely. I think that's the biggest the gap that I see in the market right now is the education aspect, right? Everyone thinks like if you just grab some nuts off the shelf, it's a guilt-free snack, you're good to go and you get all the nutrients you need. But stuff like seed oils, especially like, sunflower oil and all of that stuff, it leads to inflammation, right? you saw a lot of people, they talk about how they feel sick when they eat out. It's usually because of the inflammation that's caused by these oils that's there. So for me personally, I think I've been eating um clean for quite a few years of my life right now. So when I eat out, and if I've noticed when I consume those oils, I feel sick. It could be due to the hexane and stuff like that, but that's caused by it. So an alternative was me using maple syrup, right? It's a little bit of a binder. You want the spices to stick onto the nuts because you want it to be a fun snack, right? It can't sound like a punishment when you're just snacking. You just don't want to have a raw nut. So I think that's why I started using maple syrup. It's a little bit sweet. It gives that little sweetness that you want on a salty snack, but it's still natural and still good for you. So yeah, that's why I've been using those. And I think, going to the clean label aspect, I think goes on to what I said earlier. It's like every snack right now on the aisle is, you can't pronounce the ingredients that's on the label, right? And I think that's the biggest problem. Like, hey, the way I built out Sivaro Snacks is everything that you see on one of our bags, you can find in a home kitchen of any family in New York and Texas, wherever you are. So it's pronounceable ingredients. It's real stuff that you want, and that stays natural there.
And I'd love for you to talk about the diversity of options because I looked at Zaytar cashews, ranch almonds, everything bagel almonds. How
Yeah.
did you come up with these flavors? What makes them resonate with buyers?
Yeah, I guess it comes down to our New York roots, right? So I come from a Sri Lankan immigrant household. My father was a war refugee in Sri Lanka, and he escaped and came to the United States back in the 80s. And I think it comes to the story that he came to New York of all places, where it's a mix of global cultures. He didn't learn about Zatar when he was in Sri Lanka. He learned about it when he was in New York, and it's such a Middle Eastern population. They love that, right? And it's a growing spice right now. Everything bagel is like I guess, our tribute to New York City, right? Like everyone wants an everything bagel in the morning with, with your lox or cream cheese, whatever, whichever way you'd want it. So it's our tribute to the way, and it's also the story behind our brand, right? We're New York through and through. I'm from Queens, New York. Family's all in New York. Everything's made in New York. Our packaging itself has the New York City skyline on it, and that's why we are being picked up by airports and all these tourist destinations because we scream that local identity. And I think that's where the branding comes from. And then it's also what we want to translate onto our flavors there. So we do, yes, we do Zatara flavored cashews. We also are doing like a Sri Lankan flavor. We're doing some toasted coconut flavors. So it's something that we want to make sure, hey, it's a tribute to our immigrant backgrounds. It's a tribute to New York City, Queens in particular, because it's so multicultural and diverse. But then it's also, in a way, it's a healthy snack for everyone that's doesn't feel like a punishment. There's actually taste and flavor behind it.
And you mentioned airports. That brings me to the next question because these
Yeah.
are packaged for grab and go settings like airports. Why was that model the right fit for your business?
Yeah, I guess a couple of things. I think it came by chance for I think airports in particular, of course, everyone's looking for a healthy snack. And I travel a lot for work. And when I'm always at the airport and I'm looking for something healthy, I can't find it. Like even if it's nuts, it's loaded with the stuff, right? If I want to get something quick and snack to eat, it's, fast food and the stuff that's not great. And usually, even if I'm snacking in the plane, I'm getting stuff that's, again, loaded with stuff that shouldn't be consumed in the first place. So that's what I thought about first was like airports, but then also in particular is, I guess two things. One is the New York City skyline really helps resonate with tourists, right? It's not like something that they're going to get in other states. It's like, hey, yes, it's a snack, but it's something from New York, and it's a gift that I'm taking back to my friends and family, whether they're in Europe, whether they're in Texas, whether they're in, a different part of Asia. It's always that gifting piece that's also resonated, and that's what resonated with Hudson News. And we also got we're ACDBE certified. Um, it's allowed us to help get us into the airports as well. We completed an Institute of Concessions course through JFK and Port Authority, and we've completed that. So that was also one avenue for us to be a bit more popular with the airports there.
And every year, I'd like to celebrate the winners of the Queen's Tech and Innovation Challenge. You were the winner in the food category. What does winning in this category mean for you and your business?
I think on a personal level, it's validation, right? When you're a small business owner, and you're working on a CPG brand, you don't know if what you're doing is right, if it really makes sense to the market, if it really makes sense to people. Yes, people buy from you, but I always wondered maybe they're just buying from me because I'm set up at a farmer's market or just because I'm on the shelf. But when you're having that pitch and you're going up against other great businesses and you get chosen, I think for me the biggest part more than the winnings was like that validation piece. And for the business, I think on it really shows, hey, like there's strength behind the confidence that I've received from that validation. And of course, all these opportunities that we have as a business, and the coaching that we've received. I'm just one person, and my father trying to build a business from the ground up. There's so much that we don't know. I've never built a CPG brand before. So all the coaching that I received from the business and the feedback from the business competition has been immeasurable.
And one thing I was going to ask, because I try to find out also what the most valuable parts of this competition are for folks. And someone had told me it was about learning how to pitch the business better. I'm curious what you found most valuable about this whole process in this challenge.
Yeah, I think it's almost every entrepreneur might say this, but they think everyone's aware of the problem that we're trying to solve. And so I came into the competition thinking, yeah, everyone knows that nuts and dry fruit are filled with food coloring and a bunch of chemicals in it when they're looking for a healthy snack. And it's funny because that was my ignorance because everyone came up to me and was like, I was taking pictures of your presentation because I have kids at home that I'm feeding this stuff to, and it's leading to XYZ problems. Thank you for educating me that. So I think for me, it was, I kind of losing the ignorance, thinking everyone knows that this is a problem, and taking that as feedback to be like, hey, this is a huge education piece that I need to bring to the market. So that's been one massive opportunity for me to focus on, both on my packaging and on my website, which I am reworking now, thanks to the grant that I received.
And we're going to ask you for the website address and how people could learn more in just a few moments. But before we get to that, who's your ideal customer? Who's your audience? Because as people listen to this, I want them to go, oh, this is right for me.
Yeah, I think our ideal customer, and could be a few people. Usually, who we sell to are people those who are skeptical of the ingredients in their snacks right now. Those are one of our most informed customer groups. They're the ones that are skeptical, they're flipping the bag over, they're reading the stuff. They can come from a fitness background, they don't need to come from a fitness background. They could be young parents that are looking to literally feed their kids the right stuff, right? A lot of our customers are young mom and dads that want to give dry fruit to their kids because their kids don't eat enough fruit and they like the dry fruit because it's like a candy. A lot of our other customers, they're very seed oil adverse. They're already avoiding seed oils in their diets right now. They're up to date on these new on the the findings, and they're very skeptical what's on the market right now. And they're looking for a snack just like us. And then we have some customers that are Gen X that are just older in their days and they know that they need to eat a lot more fat, a lot more cleaner ingredients, and that they've been snacking on horrible stuff for them. And they're busy, right? Americans are snacking more than ever. We're busier more than ever. We're working longer hours. Snacks are replacing whole meals now. So it's those guys that are, hey, like I have 100 things to do in my workday. I don't have time for a proper meal and I don't want to reach for a bag of Oreos. So those are some of the customers that we sell to.
And you are speaking to me because of my busy week, usually, and what it's like. And I always will put extra snacks in my bag because I don't know if I'm going to be able to get a full meal.
100%. Yes, exactly.
So, what's on the horizon as far as the business? What's next for you?
What's next? Yeah, so right now we've received a ton of great feedback, right, around the problem that we're trying to solve, and I'm really focused on making that into an education piece, both on our website, but also revamping that on our packaging. We've got a lot of great opportunities in the airports as we continue to try to dominate within the travel space. I really want to ramp up on e-commerce and get into more open doors within Queens, within New York, maybe within other states as well. So I'm trying to work that through. We have a lot of great production coming, a lot of new great flavors coming out for this summer. So this is our season, and we're ramping up the team. We're hiring some people to help us with production and packaging, and it's exciting things. It's exciting times, and I'm super grateful and blessed to be in this position.
And you've mentioned the website. So if people want to learn more about Sivaro Snacks, where should they go?
Yeah, follow. So you can follow us on Instagram. We're at Sivaro. That's Sivaro snacks. And our website is www.thesivarosnacks.com. So you can find us on both places.
Rathan Yogi, I want to thank you so much for appearing here on this week's It's in Queens podcast.
Thank you, Jeff. Thanks you for having me.
That was Rathan Yogi, founder of Sivaro Snacks, and I think his story really captures so much of what makes this borough such a strong place for entrepreneurs. And while we're talking about local business and local creativity, there's always another reason to get out and explore the borough. Queens has a way of surprising you, whether you're looking for food or music or art, history, parks, performances, or even a neighborhood you've not walked through in a while. And that's where Rob Mackay comes in. He's with the Queens Tourism Council and the Queens Economic Development Corporation. And each week he gives us a look at some of the events and activities and can't miss experiences happening across the borough. Here's Rob.
Hi, Jeff. It's your favorite time of year again. That is to say, it's the Celebrate Historic Jackson Heist weekend, both Saturday, June 13th and Sunday, June 14th. This is an annual activity that the Jackson Heights Beautification Group organizes, and the fun kicks off at the Renaissance Charter School that Saturday with an exhibition of vintage photos, brochures, maps, and other ephemera that date to the early years of Jackson Heights before its development. That same day at 11 o'clock, there's a slideshow, a history slideshow, I should say. And from noon to 4, people are invited to take self-guided tours with special maps that they've created, and you can go to 15 of the courtyards. And I should probably add that some of these courtyards in Jackson Heights are not open to the public except for on this day. They're also not visible from the street, and some of them have really elaborate landscapings. So that's kind of cool. And then the fun resumes the next day, Sunday, the 14th at noon, with guided tours, actual person telling you about the neighborhood's architecture, demographics, history, et cetera, oddities, urban planning, famous people who grew up there, all that kind of stuff. And in that case, you meet at the Community United Methodist Church, which is at 82nd Street and 35th Avenue. Again, that's at June. More info on June 14th. Again, more information at It's in Queens. Thank you very much, Jeff.
Thanks, Rob. That's just a sample of what's happening in Queens, and another reminder that there's always something new to discover here. Now, to find more events, neighborhood ideas, places to visit, head right over to the It's in Queens website at itsinqueens.com. And for business news and resources and workshops, go over to the QEDC's website at queensny.org. And when you're there, take a moment and sign up for their newsletter. As always, when you're out exploring Queens, take a photo and share it with us. Tag us on Instagram or X because you can become our photo of the week. Just remember to use the hashtag #It'sInQueens. Remember that hashtag, It's in Queens. Okay, folks, I'm your host, Jeff Simmons, and I want to thank you so much for listening to this week's It's in Queens podcast, and we'll see you around the borough.